Dr. Phil's interview with missing Summer Wells' parents revealed several signs that the little girl's family was being deceptive about her disappearance. Summer's parents, Candus and Don Wells, appeared on an episode of Dr. Phil, where they were questioned by behavior analysts and body language experts Scott Rouse and Greg Hartley. The interview, which revealed worrying signs, was recorded 5 months after Summer Moon Utah Wells' June 15, 2021 disappearance. She was last seen at her family's home in Hawkins County, Tennessee. Her family said at the time that she had been in the yard planting flowers with her mother and grandmother when she went back inside the home to play with her toys at around 6:30 p.m. She was never seen again. Don, who was at work at the time, and his wife have long maintained that his daughter was abducted by an unknown perpetrator, but so far no evidence has surfaced to support the theory. The parents have been accused across social media of being involved in Summer's vanishing, even receiving death threats. However, they have denied those claims. Behavior experts Rouse and Hartley spoke with Summer's parents to try and figure out whether they may be lying about her disappearance, and they ultimately spotted behaviors that caused them to be suspicious. The parents of Summer exhibited guilty language when they were asked about their daughter's mysterious disappearance. Don was quizzed on Dr. Phil as to whether he has any doubts about Candus's recollection of events leading up to Summer's disappearance. Dr. Phil said he observed Don contradict himself several times, saying no and yes in the same sentence while stammering and stuttering all over the place. Hartley added, "For me, you'll notice his eyes are dropping down to his left. He's having kind of an internal conversation about how do I answer this very complicated question. And I think he edits. He speaks and never finishes a sentence." Dr. Phil said, "It's very clear to me that Don was holding something back, something he has knowledge of regarding Summer's disappearance."
Candus and Don sat down with body language experts Scott Rouse and Greg Hartley. Now, Scott and Greg are interrogators. Together, they have been called a human lie detector.
Is there anything about Candus's story that makes you question the story?
No, not the way it played out and everything like that. I mean, yeah, you always have questions. I mean, I don't really have any. I mean, I don't really have any questions.
He was stammering, stuttering all over the place. What'd you make of that?
I think he edits, he speaks, and never finishes a sentence.
We were under the impression he was holding back the information.
Okay, now this is important to me because we're trying to find this little girl. I don't care about anything else. It's very clear to me that he is editing. That means he's holding something back.
Exactly.
So the question is, what's he know that he's not telling us, right?
And that's the reason we wanted the second interview with your team, is because we could get to more information.
Dr. Phil, Rouse, and Hartley turned their attention to Candus, who they accused of fading facts. They began by focusing on Candus's reaction when they asked her what she thinks should happen to the person that took Summer. Before answering, Candus closed her eyes and paused. According to the experts, her body movements were a classic example of blocking or escaping. She then mumbled after taking a deep breath and said, "They should be put away for the rest of their lives. I mean, they should be tormented, I think." Characterizing Candus's behavior, Rouse said, "There's a lot going on here. She's not sure what she should say. Everything she's doing says, I'm unsure and shouldn't be saying this."
Did you do anything to Summer?
No.
What do you think should happen to somebody that did this?
They should be put away for the rest of their lives. I mean, they should be tormented, I think.
If I ask you what happened to Jordan, he was missing. It wouldn't be a pause there.
It wouldn't take me 5 seconds to think about it. Give me 10 seconds in a room alone with him, and we'll be through.
Candus later stormed out of a portion of the Dr. Phil show as she cried over crime gang questions both her and her husband were asked. Their crime gang questions suggested Summer may have been kidnapped by the Cornbread Mafia. Rouse described her actions as insulating and running. He added, "She insulates when she starts crying, so we can't get to her. In other words, psychologically, we can't speak to her, and we see the emotion as soon as I say Cornbread Mafia. There, as we see that mouth starts dragging down within seconds, and that's how long it takes to get into the brain and say, hey, this isn't good." Hartley explained to Dr. Phil that Candus starts to even before she leaves the scene by making herself unavailable.
We haven't seen a lot of tears from her, but then you ask about the Cornbread Mafia, which is a organized grassroots crime syndicate in Tennessee, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
What about those fellows that live around there in the Cornbread Mafia?
Cornbread Mafia.
That's what we call them where we live. I don't know this.
I have no idea. I've heard about some hillbilly mafia type stuff and everything, you know. And
She is feeling emotion here that we didn't see any other place in the story. So this
But
feels.
we don't know what it is.
That's
It
right.
could be fear.
That's right.
It could be guilt.
We can't read minds, we read symptoms, but those are pretty clear.
Scott asked you about the Cornbread Mafia. You got very upset when he asked you about that. Why did that upset you so much?
Because I don't even know what that is.
never
Sorry?
heard of it.
I've never even heard of it. I don't even know what it is.
And why would it upset you so much?
Because it sounds horrible.
Just thinking that her in her mind feeling like she's being interrogated bothers her because she loves her daughter with all her heart. She spent a lot of quality time with her every day, thank God. She took a lot of pictures.
Well, why don't you let her answer?
Okay, yes, sir.
Because that's not interrogating you. It's we're trying to help you find your daughter. I started this out by saying, I don't think you hurt your daughter. I'm standing up for you. I'm saying, I don't think you hurt your daughter. But I'm going to look under every rock. I'm going to go down every trail. I'm going to investigate everything. And if you want to find her, you would be right there beside me saying, right, Doc, let's turn this rock over. Let's ask this person. Let's consider this. It doesn't make sense to me that, I mean, you got up and left the interview when he asked you about that, and I didn't understand that. You want to find your daughter, obviously.
Yes.
And it puzzles me that you get so upset about that. And, you know, one theory is guilty knowledge, that you may know something you don't even know you know. You may be afraid of something that is so horrible you don't even want to think about it. And so you push it down and don't even want to think about it. But I want you to think about it. I want you to be willing to consider every possibility, because it's only when you think about the darkest possibilities that we can find answers. And the Cornbread Mafia, Scott, define that for us.
Sort of an organized crime syndicate in the South. It runs from Tennessee to Georgia. It's widespread.
Mm-hmm.
And some parts are thicker than others, but overall, it's there.
Yeah. And it's kind of a homegrown. This isn't out of New York or Miami or Chicago. This is a local syndicated mafia. There's a lot of meth trafficking in it. There's a lot of all sorts of things.
Yes, sir.
And there are a lot of meth labs in that area. And this is all organized. These aren't independent.
Correct.
It's even harder to penetrate because everybody knows everybody.
Right.
That's
And there is trafficking involved in that part of the country, like every other part of the country. And so one of the theories is that someone abducted her in that regard. And I don't know that. I'm just saying you have to consider that. Somebody took her for some reason.
That's been one of my theories, because there's been a lot of people coming up to our house and just taking whatever at night. They come up, they knew where we were one day, and they took all the tools out of my shed. And that's been one of my theories, is someone local that's been watching us. And then the other theory is a more professional type mafia or whatever. I don't know, but that's always been one of my theories. But I never heard about no cornbread mafia.
Live in the country, you don't expect that kind of stuff.
I'm not permitted.
No, I want to.
These are tough questions.
No, I'm being interrogated again, and I don't want to do this no more. Yes, I am.
We'll stop. I want you to feel comfortable.
No, I want out, and I want to go home.
I'm down.
I don't want
Okay. Oh.
So she starts, even before she flees the scene, by doing something that we refer to as the trancer in our true crime workshop, and that's making herself unavailable. Whether it's doing this or emotional or something you escape, she's already escaped. It's just a matter of getting out of that wire.
Yeah.
The interesting piece is contrast their body language.
Uh-huh.
Don looks oblivious to all of this. He's trusting us and paying attention to us. She's not. It's an interesting.
Yeah, and at this point, she's down in her chin.
You ask them a question and they feel they're being threatened, you'll see that chin drop. It protects the neck. It's something that happens from your limbic system. It's a psychological thing that happens. So the head goes down. That's what we're seeing there, along with a lot of I. She talks about it's not working for me, those types of things.
They get very emotional. They lock up. Their throat is protected by putting their chin down over their throat. And then typically in pre-confession, their body will open up, and that's when you close. That's when you go after them.
Yeah.
We wondered.
Now, when my producer asked the Wells for a tour inside their home to better understand what happened the day that Summer went missing, Candus refused. Then she changed her mind and led us into the basement, but only after they had time to clean it. Okay, well, let me ask you, Candus, if I understand correctly what you've said. You took Summer in the front door.
Yes.
And you said to the three boys, keep an eye on Summer.
Yes.
Okay. Then you did what?
Then I went back outside to my mom's camper, which was right next to the house. And I had to fix her knee brace for her.
Okay. She had a knee brace on?
Yeah.
And that took?
Only 2 minutes.
Okay. And then what'd you do?
I went back in the house.
When you went back in, what'd you see?
The three boys sitting there watching TV.
Okay. And no Summer?
No Summer.
Okay. What'd you do then?
I asked the boys where she was at. And they told me that she went downstairs to play with her toys.
Okay. Would she do that? Would she say, hey, I'm going downstairs to play with my toys, or would she just go?
No, she'd tell the boys.
What'd you do then?
Well, I hollered for her at first.
And no response.
No response.
So what'd you do?
So I went directly down there. I looked for her everywhere I could look. In the room, under the blankets, whatever. And she was gone.
All right. What's the way to get out of there besides coming back upstairs?
It's just the basement door.
That back door?
Yeah.
Okay. And if that door opens, could the boys hear it?
No, if they had the TV up loud.
Okay. All right. Is she known to go out that back door?
She'll go out the back door, but then she'll circle around by her swing.
Okay. Back around to the front?
Yeah.
Scott and Greg, you interviewed this family for hours. What is your theory? What's your summation about what happened?
I will say, I also don't think that Don, and I'll hand it to you in just a second, I don't think Don has any guilty knowledge of anything based on all the time I've spent with him. And Candus, if you don't have guilty knowledge, if you know anything, this is your kid. You need to push this out, whatever you know, because you show signs that you're hiding something.
Well, I'm not hiding anything, though.
Well, the reason we think you're hiding something is because each time we've talked about the cornbread mafia, which you don't know about, that tears you up. You emotionally fall apart. We see signs of stress.
But I don't know anything.
Everything about your body language suggests, or it indicates to us, that you know a little more than you're telling us.
Candus, there are 2 or 3 really red flag things that make us want to know more. Not saying you did X or you did Y. There are lots of ways that things leak in your body language and your behavior, and that's what we're seeing.
What I'm saying is, I think you know more than you're telling, and that may be more than you're consciously acknowledging. You may know things you don't know you know, or maybe it's too horrible to think about, but you've got to cut through that, because you do react to certain things that suggest at some level you know something more than you're giving a voice to. And it's hard for me to say you need to tell us what you don't know, because that's.
But if I knew, then I could
I know,
tell
that's
you.
what I'm saying. It's like I'm telling you to say, tell me what you don't know, and you say, well, how can I tell you if I don't know? And I'm saying you've got to be willing to take your guards down and think through if there's anything that you're pushing out of consciousness, if there's anything that you're just not willing to acknowledge. We need your help to find your daughter. I guarantee you, when this is solved, and it's going to be solved, this isn't going to be a stranger. This is going to be somebody you know, somebody you've crossed paths with somewhere, somehow, in my opinion. It's just a matter of you're going to find it out when they're caught, or you're going to find it out because you go back through and do an inventory and figure out everything you can possibly figure out and lead us to who they are. And every day goes by, that trail gets colder and colder and colder. And if she was abducted and she's been trafficked somewhere, she can be found. I want to find that baby. I want to find that child and bring her back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We've dismissed Don and Candus. You had the opportunity to observe the interactions. Any thoughts?
We saw a lot of differences in Candace as her movements, her cues are very small, because all she did was just dead eye you the whole time. So our biggest focus was her respiration. And if you'll go back and look at some of this, as you start talking about the cornbread mafia, as you're easing up to that, we'll see your respiration increase. And again, like I was telling her, we'll see her adapters. Adapters are the things you use to get rid of that built up stress or tension, anything that's a repetitive motion or action. And she was doing that here, very small. But then she started breathing heavily. That's what we saw mostly in her. The closer you got, the heavier she got breathing.
Now, she may have nothing to do with this child's disappearance whatsoever, nothing. But those red flag indicators and those kinds of things that say, why aren't you more forthcoming with information? Why don't you ask? Why don't you tell? Combined with, and you can see it very clearly on her as you watch the video, her jacket opening and closing because of how much respiration she has, and a little bit of barriering or needing more space, just makes you feel uncomfortable.
I think there have been people around this home, workers with Don, people coming over to hang
for whatever
out,
purpose, right? For
party,
purpose.
whatever. I won't make allegations about what they were doing when they were there, but and they see somebody get obsessed, and then come back on their own accord and take the child. It's happened, sadly, thousands of times.
I think they probably are aware of who's around them that is dangerous.
I think she has more knowledge than she's either acknowledging or sharing.
Yes.
One of the two.
We're on the same page.
And I believe that to the core of my soul.